Hello everyone, this is RC053. I am bringing you a Wargame Red Dragon video today. We're going to be looking at a Soviet general deck that we can use as a beginner deck or a starter deck, because deck making is something that I think a lot of people wish they had access to earlier on. So with that, we're going to make a Red 4 starter deck. We'll just go ahead and name it here. So the big thing with the Red 4 is you don't have as many countries per se, but you still have just as many units. Now, a lot of those units are going to be clones of the Soviets. So you're going to see a lot of repeats. You're going to see the T-72M, which is very close to the T-72A, but slightly downgraded. But with that, let's go ahead and we'll just dive in. We're going to make a Soviet deck. And when you first open up, you're going to have the choice of choosing a faction. You can choose blue 4 or red 4. Next, you're going to choose your nation or coalition. Now, some games will restrict you to just using, well, first you can pick all. You can use everything, all these countries' units, but you won't have prototypes. So, very broad, you can pick a lot of different units, but you have to be very specialized, and you don't have as many points. You can choose a coalition, which gives you the prototypes, but only for those three countries, and, the other thing is you don't have as many points as you would if you chose just a national deck. Now, for beginners, I'd recommend doing Soviet, because Soviet has a lot of variety, but it's also very difficult to master, but it's not too difficult. I mean, this whole game is difficult to master, which is the purpose for making this video. So, we've got our Red 4 Soviet starter deck. Now, when you first open this up, before we even get into all this, you have a variety of different sections. Now, you'll probably see this cost. Well, it costs activation points, and those activation points are what determine how many units you can bring. So you can choose to bring, you know, max out these 5 sections, but you won't have anything in vehicles, helicopters, or planes. So you have some choices. Now, some people choose era decks. I don't like era decks in just normal matches. It's pretty fun when you're doing like a shall we say, like a specialized game where that's where everybody is using thematic and or using era decks, but in a normal situation, it's probably best that you don't do it. So, you have logistics, and we'll start with that. Now, depending on your deck, you'll start with other things, but for general decks, I like to start here. Now, in a general deck, you need in every deck you need a command unit. Now, that can range from the cheapest variety, being just Jeeps, such as this UAZ 469U, or to the most expensive command unit in the game, the T-80UK, with 20 frontal armor, and it's armored and has a very heavy gun. So you have a lot of options. Now, don't take this if you are doing a general deck. I see some beginners do this, because they're like, because some people tell them, yeah, you need armored CVs or else they're going to get blown up, but then they start using them on the attack because, hey, well, it's a tank and it's got a gun and some ATGMs, and yeah, it'll work. I mean, this is just too expensive. 200 points, I can bring in two of these guys and get double the income, and that's really what most games are going to be about, is securing zones and securing a lot of them, which is why I would recommend going with just the simple Jeep. Now, there is stuff in between, like the BMP-1K. You don't get as many as you would with the UAZ, but you don't lack as much like you would if you got the T-80UK or the T-72K1. So it just depends on your playstyle. If you like bringing less CVs, but you prefer that, then hey, that's fine by you if you enjoy that. But for a general deck, I would recommend just Jeeps. Now, another thing I see beginners do is use command helicopters. Just don't take these. You cannot conceal them, and you cannot hide them, which means if the recon will easily spot these things, and if I were there, I'd be like, okay, where are my mortars? Okay, there are my mortars, fire. And then this thing is dead. That's about how things usually go. The other thing you need, and I'd say every deck, but especially in a general deck, is a forward operating base. Now, it's the only building that you can deploy in Wargame, and you can only deploy it at the beginning of a match. But it is very much so worth it if you are indeed going to keep your units supplied in the fight. It also serves as a refueling point and resupply point for your logistics units, logistics units, pardon me, which we'll, of course, get to now. Okay. Now, we have a lot of options. You have these huge resupply choppers. You've got little transport with a couple of oil barrels strapped to the back, and you have your trucks. Personally, I like to go with a helicopter, and I like to go with a truck. I like to have that mix. It gives me a lot of more flexibility. If I need to resupply something that's far away, I can call in a supply chopper, and I can back them up with trucks. Now, I'm going to take the Mi-6. It's the smallest, and I say smallest, but it's the... I can't take any other logistics choppers, and I usually like them smaller. I like the Chinook, I like the Puma. I like some of the smaller ones, but we get what we get when we won't throw a fit in this case, because we get a lot of other good units in our Soviet deck. Now, you have a couple of other options. I'm going to go with the Earl 37.5D cargo. Now, we don't get a lot of supplies. We get a lot more with the Earl 4320. The reason, though, I'm taking this is because it, well, we get a bit more of them. We get 11 of them compared to only 9, and for some reason, I feel like 9 just isn't, not that it isn't enough, but for a 20-point, truck, getting only 9 of them, and I don't want to take too many, so I'll take these Earls instead. It also means that I can resupply more areas on the map at one time if I have to. And finally, it also means that they're more numerous, so if I do lose one, then I can just make it up with another one. Next, let's move on to infantry. Infantry is self-explanatory. It makes sense. It's infantry. It's just your troops. So, with that, I usually like to take airborne units. I like to have a good variety of our forces. One unit that I really like are going to be these VDVs, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But let's see where we're going to start out. Let's start out, though, with our basic line infantry. Now, the Motostrelki are very flexible units. You can take them in a huge variety of transports. You can take them in this unassuming MTLB. You can take them in the BTR-90, which is just a powerhouse of a transport. Same with the BMP-3, or you can take them in anything in between with the BMP-1 series or the BTR-80. So, it's all up to you. It really is, in a deck. Now, personally, I like to take the Motostrelki 90s over just the base Motostrelki, because having this 24 armor penetration can be a real lifesaver in several situations, especially those in forests where you're close range and you send in, the enemy has a vehicle, an anti-infantry vehicle, and you need to knock it out in one shot, or else your infantry is going to just get torn apart. So that's where I prefer having this higher armor penetration. Does mean we get less of them, though. Well, not quite. I mean, we get the same amount, but they're a bit more expensive. They're 5 points more expensive. So that's something I'm usually willing to make. I'm fine with making an accommodation for that. Now, it just depends then on how you want to take it. If you want, like, say you just want to spam it. You just want a lot of infantry and you just want the transport. Then you can take them in the MTLBV. If you want them arriving to the battlefield faster, you could take them to BTR-80, and you could upgrade that until you get to the 80A, and eventually the BTR-90, but, like, comparing just the number of troops we get, here we get 22 at trained or 18 at hardened. Say we were to take that in a BTR-90. 12 trained, or 8 hardened, so your numbers deplete the better transports you take, which is a great balancing factor for Wargame. So, it's so hard, because Russia has so many good transports. How many do we get in the BMP-2? 18. I think we're going to go with the BMP-1D. That gives us a 20-point transport, which gives us good offensive power. If we look at it, it has 3 frontal armor. Very good for just a normal transport. We get an automatic grenade launcher in the form of the AGS-17. Now, I think a lot of beginners underestimate the power of a grenade launcher. These automatic grenade launchers are huge implements in military warfare for a variety of reasons, but the AGS-17 and the U.S. counterpart for it are very good at suppressing enemy infantry at distances. So for that reason, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the AGS-17 on the BMP-1D. This gun really isn't much to look at. I wouldn't recommend getting it for the gun. It just isn't going to do much for you. So, oh, we already took one. Okay. Alright, now the next unit that we're going to want to take, I usually would like to go for shock troops. Now, I can't really restrict it, I don't believe. It's just shock troops. No, I cannot. Now, we're just going to restrict it to rifle infantry, though. Shock troops are, these are your bread and butter. These are your cheap, guys you can bring in and use them for a variety of tasks. Shock troops, on the other hand, are special, heavy infantry, and you can use them to deal with a variety of different situations, albeit more expensively, or in a more expensive way. Case in point, the VDV-90. VDV-90 is an excellent tool for dealing with tanks. Excellent tool. It has an 875-meter range, the most on when it comes to like laws and others. You also have very high accuracy, armor penetration, suppression, and a good rate of fire. So we're definitely going to be adding these. It's just the question of on what platform. Some people like the BMD-1s, I don't know why. Others like taking them in the BMD-3 or the BMD-2 and every manner of transportation in between. For us, we are going to take them cheap. I'm going to take 13 of them in a... wait, do we want to upgrade to the Scratch? That's a question. We can take these guys at 30 points, or we can get the Scratch, which I think we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take them in the Scratch. Now, here's why. The BTRD just has a bunch of machine guns. Now, that's not a bad thing. Having a bunch of machine guns on a transport isn't bad, but the Scratch gets those bunch of machine guns, and it gets an anti-aircraft gun, which can be used on infantry as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the Scratch. And it also has a good anti-helicopter range, and a lot of people don't expect anti-aircraft on transport. Now, if you know what a Scratch is, and a lot of people will, because they've been killed by it, then that element of ambush kind of goes out the window. But, nevertheless, let's move on. The other kind of shock troops, just to keep in mind, are Marines. Now, basically every Marine group comes in a squad of 15. Now, personally, I don't really use a lot of Marines in most of my battles. I don't. That's not a bad thing. I don't think it really hurts you. However, you usually have a very low supply of units, and that's kind of the difficulty with them, is that you don't get as many. But they do have more strength. They have 15 men per team, which means they can put down fire, they can survive for longer. So yeah, once again, it's a trade-off. Now, we're going to look at we have a variety of different things we can take. Let me go ahead and highlight them all. Oh, the other type of infantry we have are light infantry, which are usually helicopter deployed. See, Gornostroki 90s. Yeah, the only way we could possibly deploy these guys, I guess, is by helicopter. And while their Mites M is pretty good, and by pretty good I mean it is really good for taking out tanks and stuff, with 26 armor penetration at a fair range, we're not going to take them because we simply don't have room, at least not yet. And we'll just see. So I'm going to I usually like to fill this up here. Now, when you're playing as the Soviets, you get the Spetsnaz. Spetsnaz are great at anti-infantry, but they don't really... They have a niche role in that regard. They only do anti-infantry. You cannot put them in any other role, which is kind of it's why I don't take them, personally. I usually don't take them. Now, that just depends. If you're doing a lot of urban fighting, then yeah, bring all the Spetsnaz, bring as many as you can, but for most fighting, you're really not going to need it. If you want other engineer stuff, you can take the Sappery with the same RPO rise that the Spetsnaz has. They just probably won't use it as effectively, and they'll die easier. Or just the normal Sapperies with flamethrowers. It's just pointing it out there. What we for sure will take is going to be AA infantry. Anti-aircraft infantry are also known as man-pads for Man-Portable Air Defense System. You get a variety of them. You have a choice here between the Igla N or the normal Igla. I'm going to go with the... I think I'm going to go with the normal Igla in this case, because they have the same accuracy, just lower HE power. And for the price, it gives us a good transport. I'm just going to take them a 5.1, because these are usually just behind-the-lines units that you bring in later. I don't want to bring them in something that's like really offensive, offensively geared. because there's really no reason to do that. I'd rather save those transports for my Motostrelki, for my VDB-90, which can use that extra backup in times. Finally, we have anti-tank. Now, there's a lot of different takes on this. There are, you know, you can take the cheaper Factorias, you can take the Concours, or you can take the Concours M. In all of these cases, I don't think you can really go wrong. I'm going to say that, and then someone's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to bring in 18 Victorias, and we're going to put 4 of them in a building, and we're going to go on the attack. Don't, please. But, what we will do, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to splurge a bit on the Concours M. We're going to take them also in the MTLB. And the reason that we're going to splurge here, we could take them in the Concours, yeah, we're going to take the Concours in the Concours. No, we're going to put them in the MTLB. We could take these guys, but they have only 45% accuracy. Still a great range, though. They both have that range. So if we just compare them for a second, all their stats are exactly the same, except for these two right here, the AP power and the accuracy. I am going to splurge a bit on the Concours M, because it will do damage to super heavies. It will do a lot of damage to super heavies if you get a side shot, and it will do good damage to other tanks if you get a good hit. So, that's all up to you. I'm going to go for the Concours M, though. And we're probably going to fill this up with some more infantry, just normal infantry of some variety. But we'll come back to it later, just so that way we have room for other things. So let's get our essentials down, and then we'll continue going through. Now, the Soviets have a lot of everything. They get a huge variety of units, which make, albeit a lot of sense. They had a huge arms-producing industry. They invested a lot into that. So, let's look at it. Well, you have a lot of variety. I say we start with the AA, though. That's where I usually start. In this case, let's start with our long-range anti-aircraft AA. For that, I'm going to take $7. They carry 4 missiles apiece. They do a heck of a lot of HE damage when they hit, and very high suppression, so they'll usually panic the aircraft. Notice I say usually, but they'll panic the aircraft most of the time. So that's going to be our long-range AA. Now, this is an important time to talk about radar. Now, if it has this radar tag, it means it's vulnerable to anti-radar missiles, which makes sense. Now, anti-radar missiles come on seedplanes, which will aggressively go after your anti-aircraft and will usually escort a air train or a large amount of aircraft that are going in for a bombing run. So just keep that in mind. Now, next we're going to look at some of our other AA options. There's so many good options as Soviets. I'm sorry. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There are so many options to take. It's like, well, which one do I want to take? Well, we could take the Smerch if we wanted some MLRS. We could take the Tor if we wanted all this. I mean, it's extensive what you can take as the Soviets. Now, the next unit we're going to take is the Tungushka. Now, the Tungushka is a great anti-helicopter unit and great as a SPOG, or self-propelled AA gun. Very good at killing off enemy helicopters with its long range. With its long range, you can do a lot of damage. Keep in mind, though, you only get 4 of them, so keep them alive. And the best way to do that is usually by turning off its autocannon, because it is radar-guided, but the missile is not. So you can engage helicopters and shoot them at a very long range. And then, if you see, once a seed goes by and it evacs, then turn on the autocannon and just start blazing away at it. So, that's going to be part of our AA net. Something a bit more numerous, though, is something I always like. Now, some people like going for something cheap and plentiful. Other people like going for... I mean, there are a lot of options is what I'm trying to get at. So, yeah. There's just a ton of options. Now, I like the Strela. The Osa, doesn't have the best range, but it can be effective. It can be, because people just don't expect that range. This can be a good, rapid-fire sort of, unit against helicopter, if they get that close. which isn't all that likely, or, more importantly, against airplanes, which you can engage at a decent range. So many options. So many options, I'm telling you. It's hard for me to pick this. I'm going to go for the... I'm actually going to go for a much cheaper option, and we're going to go for the Shilka. Now, we're going to go for the Shilka. I found this to be somewhat effective because you can kind of creep up on units. If you lose one, it's not a big deal. But you can do a lot of damage with it. And it's also very cost-effective at 35 points, meaning you can escort a push with it and not really... And if it goes down, then it goes down. Maybe keep a Tunguska in the back for your longer range stuff. But very good at stunning enemy aircraft and helicopters and stuff like that. And finally, for our support, we're going to take either the Nona or the Vasilic. I'm going to go for the Nona, because it has a longer range. However, the Vasilic, don't get me wrong, is a very good option, just because of its low dispersion and a very high rate of fire that it has. So you can engage targets very rapidly. It's also quite quick. I mean, that's a plus to it. Now, that's all I'm going to do for support right now. Now, we could come back, and if I was going to add something, I would either add the Malka or the Mista. Some people really like the Smirch, in which case you could maybe edit the deck so you made sure you got your Smirch in. But let's move on to tanks, and I think this is where a lot of people go wrong. The vehicle we are looking at in front of us is a case where you could go wrong. Taking the T-3485 over 1969 in a deck is a terrible idea. Unless you are playing a game where you are intentionally limiting yourself to units from the 1950s, please don't take this in a normal game. Now, that being said, I have used them before, which is why I can speak from experience. LAV-25s have killed this. That's a unit with an autocannon. So please, pretty please, do not take the T-34. The units to take are basically not the T-62. Just avoid the T-62 like the plague, and you'll basically somewhat be fine in any deck. T-55s aren't great, but they are plentiful, because they are the most produced tank of all time, I believe. Yeah. This is a good support tank. I'm going to forgo all of these. Perhaps the T-64. I'm going to take the first unit we're going to take here. Is going to be our T-64 BM. It has a good range. Has an ATGM, which I wouldn't recommend using. There's not really a reason to use it. It will miss most of the time. However, it has good speed, good autonomy, and good armor. And on a 90-point unit, that's an ace in my book. Next, we're going to need a heavier tank of some variety. I usually turn to the T-72B over 1987. T-72B if you want something more numerous and cheaper. But I usually go with this because it, once again, has 18 armor, which means that it's much more survivable. It has a lot of side and frontal armor. Next, we're going to need... what's the next here? Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this a bit. We're going to keep those in. We're going to take the T-72A as a cheap unit. Now, this is great as a unit in a forest. Use it... Usually, your infantry and your tanks will really do a lot of working together. In this case, use this as an infantry support vehicle that you use to push up through a forest to kill off vehicles. Because a lot of those vehicles that are really good at killing infantry are not so good at killing tanks. So, that's why I take the T-72A. I up-bet them a bit, because I don't have a need for 18 tanks. Next, we're going to take these, and then we're going to take these. And then the last unit I'm going to take is the T-90. You're probably looking, some of you astute observers are going to be like, that's not a T-90 RC0538, this is a T-72BU. You must be kidding me. Actually, the T-72BU was the prototype development name for the T-90. So we're going to take the T-90. Now, discussing this unit a lot more, we have a good main gun. It's a solid main gun. It's good all around. It's Fear, which can be fired on the move, making it very effective at dealing with enemy tanks. And then we have the NSVT. Now, the NSVT is just a medium machine gun. It's basically has the same stats as the M2 Browning, which NATO has. And that's going to be our tank section. I wouldn't recommend taking more than this. If I was going to add maybe another unit, I might add either the T-64B, because it's between the T-72A and the T-64BM, or I might add the BMP-685, because it's a good cavalry tank. It's good at supporting your transports, good at supporting basically what you need it to support. Reconnaissance. Now, a lot of beginners will neglect the role of reconnaissance. The role of reconnaissance, however, cannot be understated on the modern battlefield, especially when we look at how Wargame works. Wargame does not work like standard RTSs, where you can see, only stuff in the fog of war. There is no fog of war in Wargame. You can see the entire map, everything that is on the map, except for the enemy's units. You can see where the towns are, you can see where the trees are, but you can't see the enemy units without recon. At least not at an extensive distance. I know a lot of beginners will skip this or just put a couple of token units there because they have the points for it. However, recon just cannot be overstated. If you can't see it, you can't engage it and you can't kill it. That's kind of what recon's role is. Now, let's start off with a recon helicopter. Now let's get into the pricey points here. We're going to take the KA-52. KA-52 has exceptional optics, the highest tier of optics on any recon vehicle. And its weaponry isn't bad either. The longbow's better in some regards, but the KA-52, I'd argue, is more survivable because it has these seed missiles. Now, seed, like we talked about earlier, if it has the radar tag, it can engage it. So as long as once it fires the missile, don't even bother trying to turn off the AA piece. It'll go down. It will. Unless it misses, which isn't all that likely with a 55% accuracy, and it usually is more. Next we have, you also have the Igla V, which is good at taking out enemy helicopters if they try to engage you with, say, an anti-aircraft helicopter. And then you've got the autocannon. Autocannon is, now this is a hidden feature in Wargame. It's mounted on the side right here. You can just see the barrel on its black silhouette, and it's a black gun, so you can't really see it. It's basically Russian camouflage. It's just so we can't see it. But, it means that it's going to have to do some aerial acrobatics in order to see what you want it to see, which is the biggest issue with the mounting of the autocannon. If it's mounted in a swivel position, usually on the nose here, then it will be able to engage enemy units that aren't basically in line with its nose. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the KA-52. Next, for ground-based recon, you have also quite a number of options. Now, I like taking the BRM-1K. BRM-1K is very good at spotting things. Just turn off this main gun, because it is total crap, and it will not kill anything. Anyways, this is a passive spotter. It's not an active hunter-killer unit. So just use this, kind of embed it, run it along not ridge lines, but hedgerows, and then it'll spot stuff, push your tank out of that little forest, fire off a shot, kill it, and then retreat it, and back into your force. That's the best way to use recon, at least this recon is as a passive unit. For something a bit more specialized, we're going to look at recon infantry. Now, and special forces, which Russia both has a lot of very good options. I can't deny it. There's no denying that Russia has a lot of very good options in this role. So, which do you pick? We have three options. Well, they're all unique, which is my way of saying I don't have to explain which is basically my way of saying, well, on one hand, I can just tell you they're all unique and you can figure out for yourself, or I can tell you what they're going to do. So, let me tell you what they all do. Well, the first one you probably noticed was the Spetsnaz VMF. Probably because it has Spetsnaz, but also this one has Spetsnaz in it. But the VMF are a sniper team. You only get 2 of them in a squad, so they will die very easily if they get spotted. They have exceptional stealth and very good optics, and so they can they can go undetected for a long, long period of time. And so unless you accidentally have these guys shoot, or they run literally right over you, or fly an exceptional optics vehicle in a general area, you're pretty safe with these guys. That they won't get killed, and you can just have them spot everything all day, every day. So they're very good at that. Bad news is they're not very flexible. You want a unit that's flexible? Excuse me. Take the GRU. On the other hand, the GRU have a assault rifle. It's really a carbine, but they have the AK-74 rifle, which is a very high rate of fire. They have the RPG-26 with 20 AP power, and it's a disposable launcher, so it fires 20 rounds a minute. Once again, kind of a hidden feature, which is kind of cool. And then we have the Dragunov SVD, which is a sniper rifle. It actually was designed more as a marksman rifle, but we'll give Eugen a bit of grace here. So it's a very flexible unit. You can use it with your special forces to go on the attack, or you can use it, as a recon role inside of a town, where it may have to encounter some infantry, but if it does, it can hold its own. The Rozvedkas are kind of meeting in the middle. They are a passive spotter and they don't go on the attack, and they only have 5 people, but they're cheaper than both of them, and that's the appeal of the Rozvedka. Now, as for which one we're going to choose, well, it all depends. Wow, 40 points for this unit. Interesting. How fast is it? That's the question. How fast is it? So, I'm thinking we take the Spetsnaz VMF and the Mi-24D, because it is quick, and you can then quickly retreat it elsewhere and use it as a good offensive unit, but it does make the unit very pricey. 80 points. So that actually might be a no-go. Actually, no, we're going to go with it. We're going to go with it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do that. And then finally, we're going to take a recon vehicle. Well, another recon vehicle. And for that, we're going to take the light, fast BRDM-3. It's heavily armed, and it can do a lot of damage when properly used. So yeah. Vehicles. If there was a miscellaneous section in Wargame, this would absolutely positively be it. So, we have a lot of options. At least considering this is a miscellaneous section. First unit we are not forgetting is the BMPT. Now this is the Terminator. No, it is not because the Russians have thing for Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it's more so because it terminates infantry with ruthless efficiency. I sent Dragoners after this, and the Dragoners never came back. Yeah, the Terminator is a freaking boss when it comes to killing infantry. We're going to take 7 of them, because I don't usually need all 9 of them. So yeah. Next thing we want, TO-55 Flame Tank. Very important to our offense, because they're very versatile units. The BMPT is a strictly anti-infantry role. It will not kill most vehicles. If it gets close enough in a forest, it might be able to do some damage with its autocannon, but it can't really engage tanks, at least not effectively. However, TO-55 is a main gun, which is exaggerating because this main gun sucks, but it is a main gun nonetheless. And it also has a flamethrower, which means you can just, when in doubt, napalm. That's a good motto to live by in this game, is when in doubt, napalm. The other option, I guess you could say, is the TO-62, but it has a even worse speed at 45 kilometers an hour. So we'll go ahead and we'll pay the same amount for a bit faster, but albeit less armor. So yeah, that's gonna be, we don't want two of those. We don't have a need for 2 of those. So, what other things do we take? Well, the other thing we could take would be, say, a wheeled fire support vehicle like the Zalo, or an ATGM. Now, if we step back and look at our deck a bit, let's see what we are lacking. We have a solid logistics setup. We have a good anti-tank capability. We have infantry ATGMs and short-range support. In our support, we have no anti-tank unit, which you usually want. Our tanks are good at engaging most tanks of similar calibers. And our recon can't really engage tanks, which some can, like the Bradley, for instance. So I think having more AT capability wouldn't hurt us. Now, for that goal, the Sturm is a very appealing option with its 2,800 meter range, but it only has 20 AP power. Conqueror Sem, on the other hand, is 23 AP power, but it only has a 26-25 meter range. So the choice is yours, what you want to pick. You can go for your fire support units. You could go for, you could go for your Sturm. You could go for your Concourse. It all depends kind of on what your play style is. For me personally, I'm going to go for the Norov. It has a good rate of fire. If used effectively, it can be a devastating unit to the enemy. So I'm going to take 13 of them and use them as fire support. This is where I'm going to bring in our heavy anti-tanks capability in the form of the Mi-28. This thing will brutally destroy your tanks without remorse, as given by its name, which is the Havoc, and it will play havoc with your tanks. So yeah, it's very lethal with its attack of V missiles. So we're going to take 3 of them. They're basically the Apache. Basically, they carry more missiles. That's basically the only thing that separates them, at least, and they carry less rockets. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing that separates them. However, we're going to want something to escort any helicopters, because it's, I think, the one thing we're lacking right now is a helicopter-borne infantry, and so we're going to go back and add that now that we're adding the Mi-24V, which is very good at killing enemy helicopters, because it has the armor, so it can take a couple hits, and then it can dish it out with the Igla missiles that it gets. It also has a Yak-B Gatling gun. Notice, though, on both of these, swivels. The autocannon swivels. It's a hidden feature in Wargame, and so this unit, the Havoc can be looking this way, and it can engage with the autocannon this way. It's very effective, and it's very nice to have that. Mi-24V, same thing, only it doesn't have the same range and no AP power, but an extremely high rate of fire. So, once again, choice is yours. Now, I'm going to stop here. Another good option might be the Mi-24P. If you like something cheaper, but you can use it as a gunship, you can use it as, just in a variety of roles. It just, once again, all depends on what you need or what you want. This is more numerous, obviously, but I'm going to move on to aircraft. Ooh. Of course. Oh, we're still good, actually. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we could get into that infantry, which is what we'll do right now. And this is where we're going to add our Gornostrelkis. Now, the Gornostrelkis have come in the Mi-8 chopper. The Mi-8 chopper is a very effective transport. This one doesn't have armor. This one has armor, but we get less. Do we get less of them? Is there any difference? No difference in availability, just difference in weaponry. And there's no difference in cost, is there? 30 points, 30 points. Yes. So we'll take these guys in the Mi-8 MTV. Mi-8 MTV, not just the TV. We want them with the MTV. So that gives them gives us a very mobile unit, which we can use to conduct land grabs. Another unit that could fill this role is our good old friend VDV, which, say, bring these guys also in the Mi-8 MTV, or in this case, I'd bring them in just the normal TV, because you get the same amount of them. You get a bit less if you bring them in this version. So yeah, just depends. Once again, all depends on what you want. Finally, we're going to get to aircraft. Aircraft is where you can make or break a deck. It's another area, I guess you could say. First thing we want are air superiority fighters. Russia gets a lot of variety here. Lots of variety. You could take the Yak-141, get 2 of these guys with fire and forget missiles. Take the Su-27S with semi-active Vimples and a lot more missiles, I should say. Or you can take the Su-27PU with a lot more missiles. Basically, it looks like the Soviet fighter progression through the years was, well, actually, it was this one. It's like, good missiles. We like good missiles. Those missiles were not good enough, but we get lots of missiles. So we will have the missiles. But they will be all fire and forget, so they fire more rapidly. And then, yes, comrades, this is good fighter plane. For we can fire many missiles very quickly. And it moves quickly. So yeah, we're going to take the Su-27S, because we get 2 of them. And if you're looking for like a specific and satisfying reason on why we're taking the Su-27S over the PU, the answer is simple. Per card, I get 1 of these. Per card, I get 2 of these. Sorry, but I get more of these. Now, the next thing we're going to want is a tank sniper. Now, this is going to be found in the anti-tank section, and also it can be found in the multi-role section. So, let's take a look now. Our, I guess you could say, deal with a lot of tanks rapidly option is the Su-25T. You can deal with a lot of tanks rapidly. It does what it sounds like. It's also got a lot of armor on it, but it's 200 points. Let's see here. For me, I'm going to pick the MiG-27M because it's cheap. We get a lot. Notice I say a lot. We don't get a lot, but we get some missiles, and we get a autocannon that can fire a lot of rounds really quickly with armor penetration, and it's heat, so it can do a lot of damage with those gun runs. Gun runs being strafing runs, I guess you could say. Next, we're going to want a bomber. And we're also going to leave the multi-role option, multi-role option open, just because there are other options here with the bombers. Now, options here range from the incredibly cheap, like the Yak-38Ms, or you can take the very expensive IL-102s. Now, I think once again, it's easy to go wrong. In this case, whoa, this is so hard. Why must I pick? Why do I have to be the one to pick? Honestly, I love all these units. I'd be more than happy to use all of these units and give them all a demonstration, because they all, well, not all of them, but they deserve it. Like, this one doesn't really deserve it. But, taking these MiG-29Ss, they can do a lot of good precision strikes, while the Su-24M is a total carpet bomber. In this case, ooh. Oh, this actually has more ECM. So I think in this case I'm going to go for the MiG-29S, because it does give me more, it's more accurate. So I can do precision strikes should I have to. Meanwhile, the Su-24M will just carpet bomb and blow up everything, whether that be my own guys, whether it be the enemies or my allies. The MiG-29 will at least try not to do that. And finally, we need Seed. Now, Seed is a very important element to your air deck, to any aircraft area, aircraft part of your deck. Simply because you don't want your stuff to get shot down easy. Now, if you like micromanaging one high-quality seedplane, go ahead and take the MiG-25BM. If you like taking multiple, say, Tuit Rookie, you can take the Su-24. I'm going to take the one MiG-25BM. But if you find you're losing too many seed planes, you're losing too many planes, or you're losing this too quickly, then it's a good idea to shift back to the Su-24. I was looking at it for a bit. Now we have 4 points left that we can spend. Now for you can spend this anywhere you want. I really don't have, say, a better option, or like a place where you're like, well, we need this, so we're going to do this. The Wargame just isn't that simple. For me, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add our long-range AA. Yeah, right. We already have long-range AA. I'm going to add long-range artillery. Now, if you want something that can shoot basically across most maps, take the Malka. However, for me, the Mista is usually just fine. And, yeah, fires more rounds a minute, and it carries a lot more. It carries 49 compared to 8. So, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll take the Aviakatsu, we'll take the Mista, and that fills out our deck. Now, if you like naval, or you're playing on a naval map, I'll go through that real quick, just really quick. Now, if you just want more infantry units, I'm going to fill it out that way, just so you have more ground units, so you can bring in as support. Other ways you can do that, you can bring in, for example, aircraft. In fact, I might gonna bring in 2 aircraft to basically use as air superiority fighters or interceptors, because they have a lot of missiles. Now, You know, it's possible to do that. If you want to use them as anti-ship, fill this whole thing up with anti-ship airplanes. That would be my recommendation. But if you want something that's more for the support, then that's what I do. For example, bringing in something like a couple of these, or maybe not those. Something like these BALs. I'm going to bring in a couple of these just to provide some anti-ship capability in case I need it. However, next I'm going to look at our infantry. Where's all our infantry? Here, 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 here. Good. We could take more Motostrelki. We could take Motostrelki in BMP-3s. We could take more Skyas. We could take our Marines that we might want. Or we could take the Spetsnaz. In this case, I'm going to take the Spetsnaz, because they give us something that we don't already have. I'm going to take one. And I'm also going to take the Motostrelki in the BMP-3. Because the BMP-3 is an excellent transport. We just couldn't take it. And then, finally, I'm going to look at our MBTs. Because I wouldn't say we're lacking in this area, but it's definitely something that we could, you know, say bring something more in. And for that, I'm going to take our T-55A and B. I wouldn't recommend taking anything less than it. And that's going to be our Soviet General deck, or our Red 4 starter deck. This is what I would recommend. This fits my playstyle. This is what I would use. That doesn't mean it's exactly what you're going to use. And that's cool. I don't care if you're like... If you don't like this deck at all because it doesn't suit your playstyle at all, then don't... The solution is simple. Don't play with it. Find a deck that does suit your playstyle, or find a country that does. But I think for a majority of players, this will be very beneficial for them. So, that's the end of this video. This is RC0538 signing off. The deck code, which is how you can import a deck, like this deck, you can put it in your own game, or you can just take the time and go through what I have. The deck code will be in the description below. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this helps you out, because Wargame has a very harsh learning curve, especially, and it's hard to get into it for beginners, so I hope to provide at least some alleviation of that pressure. So this is one solid deck option I would recommend for beginners. I wouldn't recommend doing crazy decks like Anzac armored decks if you're starting out. Just because you're from the United States, I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting from the United States. If you're from Germany, I wouldn't recommend you start from Germany, you know, specifically, until you learn the subtleties that they provide. But anyways, this video is going on for 47 minutes. It's time for it to be done. So, thank you all for watching, and please like and subscribe for more content like this. If you like Wargame, then I'd recommend you buy the game, or if you already have it, give it another shot, because there have been a lot of changes that have been made with the map updates. So, that's the end of this video. Like and subscribe. This is RC0538 signing off for realsies this time. Good night, everyone.